Welcome to the Self-Care Show with Deidre Sanford. Although holistic and alternative healing methods are becoming more and more mainstream, what method is right for you? How do you find a practitioner once you've chosen to explore an alternative therapy? Each week, Deidre will explore a different modality with practitioners who will explain their modality and the benefits they and their clients have received through their sessions. She and her guests may also offer live readings during the show. Now, your host of the Self-Care Show, Deidre Sanford.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christina Bloom. I'm a spiritual advisor. I am also your guest host today as Deidre had a family emergency or a friend emergency. I don't remember which. But anyway, I am here on the Self-Care Show. And good morning, Mary. And I will be talking to Amara Honeck, who is a shamanic practitioner. She's got a lot going on. I'm actually just going to have to read it to you because I just met her a few minutes ago and I don't remember it all. So hold on just a moment. And by the way, you're listening to us on WLTKDB.com. Let's Talk Radio. Let's see. Amara is a teacher with the Monroe Institute and Foundation for Shamanic Studies, sharing concepts, theories, techniques, tools for consciousness and shamanism exploration. She's also a shamanic practitioner, following the ancestral roots of her Celtic ancestors. Amara is a certified spiritual director with an extensive background in personality, practiced interspirituality, sacred creative expression, and contemplative practices, as well as a certified grief recovery method specialist. She is also a facilitator for soul collage, Zen tangle, chakra dance, touch drawing, and I hope I pronounced this right, Veriditas labyrinth practices, and holds certifications as a sound healer, crystal healing practitioner, henna artist, and Reiki master. She's located in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, the gateway to the Great Smoky Mountains, and a beautiful area. I've been there a few times. So that is what we are talking about today. And I just found out a couple of hours ago that I was doing this show, so I'm not really well prepared. So I'm just going to bring Amara out and we are going to chat. Good morning, Amara. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome. Because I didn't know you, personally yet. But I feel like we connected like instantly. That was really great.
I think so too.
Yeah. So tell us about, I know that Deidre had wanted to talk to you about manifesting and creative meditation. And those are things that I am interested in as well. So if you would like to start with that and tell us about how you do it, where you do it, all of that. Hey, Jessica. I like to talk to the chat room. I don't know if you brought up the chat room, but
I can't see it, but
okay.
Unless it's under comments.
It's under comments.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now I've got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. That way, if people ask questions, and you can see them too.
Yeah, so. I can kind of see them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Deidre and I were originally going to talk about my first book, which is called Creative Meditation and Manifestation: Using Your 21 Innate Powers to Create Your Life. And basically we wanted to talk about the difference between my method or my ways of thinking of manifestation versus some of the other books that you might see out there. And really the focus of my book and my entire process is, instead of manifesting maybe things and more possessions and materialism, we really kind of manifest things that are helpful in our own lives as far as personality and characteristics and developing ourselves spiritually. And then that leads to those other bigger things that we want. So, identify what the 21 powers are. And, of course, emotion is in there, and vibrational frequency and inspired action. A lot of them you've probably heard of. I just take a little bit different spin with, just again, defining them more from a spiritual aspect, instead of wanting your fourth home or your seventh car and things like that, because it never brings us joy. the way we can when we just sort of go within and do the inner work and the self-development and exploration. That's where we start to really find who we are. And then that's when everything else just starts to really fall into place. So that's like the gist of the whole book. Rather than material possessions, more spirituality and personal growth.
I love that, because the spiritual growth is really the biggest thing. We've been going through this huge ascension where I'm feeling like we're about halfway through it. You know what I mean? But we're never going backwards. So really, to be able to focus on the spiritual aspect of it, I think it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful. And the physical things come, the material things come, and sometimes way too much of it. Like, it really is true. You can't take it with you, and someone's going to have to deal with all of that. So it really is true, though. And I really like your approach. I like the spiritual approach to that. So do you have classes then?
I don't have classes on the manifestation. I do have monthly consciousness group. We call it the Consciousness Gathering, and it is sponsored by the Monroe Institute in Virginia. And the Monroe Institute is a place where you can go to explore and expand your consciousness. So it was an amazing place I found in 2015. It completely and utterly changed my life. And I did the consciousness work for a couple years, and then became a teacher with them to teach other people these just amazing, expansive things that we can learn how to do very simply. And we actually, we use binaural beats to get us into that consciousness state. So it's, a lot of it's called hemisync or hemisphere synchronization, hemisync. So we have frequencies that blend the right and left hand side of the brain. So we don't have to like struggle with meditation or struggle with getting into that expanded consciousness state. And it's amazing work. When you add when you add those binaural beats, it kind of takes I'm not sure if I can do this sort of idea away, because it just starts to happen naturally. It's a human natural thing with the binaural beats to have that synchronization of the two halves of our brain.
I have to tell you, I love binaural beats meditations.
Oh, good. I'm
so glad you love them. Yes, there is just something that I can't really find words for. I mean, you just described it technically, but the feeling of it when you're experiencing that, I don't even know how to explain that. It's a totally different way to balance.
Yes.
And it's at least I do. I can't speak for other people, but at least I feel when I listen to the binaural beats, you have to wear your headset because it
helps to have that close to your head. Right.
Yeah, it helps to have that close to your head. And at the same, I mean, all simultaneously, I feel relaxed, grounded, expansive, floaty. Like, how do you feel floaty and grounded at the same time?
Floaty, that's a perfect adjective. You feel floaty. Like you can almost feel your head, like you can just feel kind of a shift, I call it, or a lightness in the head area, almost as if you're elevating, like you're moving up. Like you kind of think of expanded consciousness as moving up, and you actually do start to feel that level of up.
You do. Welcome, Kathy. Thank you for being here this morning. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm guest hosting for Deidre. She had an emergency situation that she needed to get to. So she texted me this morning and asked if I would be willing to step in for her. So I am doing here. Hi, Stephanie. So far, I know everybody in the chat room. This is awesome. I love it. Thank you all for being here. And we're talking about the Monroe Institute, and you are, I'm sorry. I've had about this much coffee, so it hasn't kicked in.
Out you were talking to me 2 hours ago. So.
Good morning, Marilyn. Welcome. So I'm going to be like sipping my coffee through this whole thing, but I have kind of an appropriate cup here. And so I don't know if you can read it. It's probably backwards, isn't it?
Something about trust the process. I can see the very bottom.
Yep.
Yep.
So it says, slow down, calm down. Don't worry. Don't hurry. Trust the process. Yep. And that is such an important thing for us to remember. I mean, as we're going through this ascension process, everybody is changing. I belong to several groups and I keep getting in more of them, but we're all having the same conversation. how are we going to get through this ascension? How are things different now than they were before? The whole energy of the atmosphere of the world is different than it was before. And it's interesting when you have people who come to you and they're in fear over that exact thing. How do you approach that, and how do you help them move through that?
And now that goes back again to consciousness work, because if your belief system holds that there is a higher power, or that we have guardian spirits or angels or power animals, whatever you want to call that guidance system, even just higher self, if we want to keep it very bland and not go too out there, we would say that you have this higher level of wisdom. That level of wisdom can be tapped in through consciousness work. So it does tap down the fears, because when you are able to perceive in that higher consciousness state, you're given information to say, this is what's happening. Here's why it's happening. And then it kind of makes sense. You can see a bigger overview of the situation. So when you're seeing stormy political events or environmental events, tragedies, life tragedies, you can lift into that higher space and ask to be shown, how does this affect the bigger picture? How does it affect me? How does it affect the plan? And you can really, really get some insightful information. And sometimes it's such simple information that you kind of wonder, how did I not think of that? Like, how did I not see that for myself? But I think because we're physical, we're human, we're living this human experience, we forget sometimes really the bigger picture, because we're so caught up in the smaller picture of our lives in general.
Right.
So consciousness work really, really helps with that. It just allows you to, using the binaural beats, for example, I'm using shamanic drumming. That also changes the theta state, and also it has a very similar effect.
Right.
And it allows you to go and ask those big questions from that higher spot.
Right.
And get great answers that really kind of soothe the soul and calm.
Thank you. That was a really great answer. I do want to welcome Brenda, Lisa, and Sherry to the chat room. Thank you. Lisa, thank you. Much appreciated. Good morning, everyone. I'm an evening host, so this good morning thing is interesting. Hey, Courtney, welcome. I had a feeling you'd be here today. Yeah, I love that, where you can reach that. People think I'm crazy when I say meditate to drums.
Oh, yeah. No. It works.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are the most intense meditations I've had. They're the ones that take me deeper and higher.
Yeah.
They're the ones that really bring me back to my own heartbeat. I love the drumming meditations.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced the shamanic drumming. So I studied the work of core shamanism, which is Michael Harner, and he had discovered, he had first discovered higher consciousness through ayahuasca, with working in South America with the Javaro people, and they used ayahuasca. And when he came back to America, you can't always be using ayahuasca and staying out of things for 4 to 8 hours, being in that state of mind. You want to be able to, especially for me, if I'm working with clients, I need to be able to stay in the theta state halfway, kind of be half there and half here. And I can't, you never know what the plant medicine is going to do to you. You never know the effect it's going to take. And if you believe that everything has spirit, then plants have spirit. And where does that spirit take you? And each journey, each time will be different. So when Michael came back to America, he started really working with drums and discovered that shamans all over the world mostly use drums to enter the theta state, not plant medicine, mostly drumming. And so he discovered what was the beat for that drumming. And it's a very fast, it's very fast. It's dun, 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 dun. So when you first hear it, you feel in that meditation state like you should be running. It feels like running. You just have to run. And then eventually it's like your brain slips back. You don't hear the sound anymore, and it allows that freedom for, again, the consciousness work. So yeah, the drumming, and I think that binaural beats and drumming, to me, I can do either, and they're both powerful in their own way, but they both, for me, get me to the consciousness state that I need to be in whether I'm working for clients, whether I'm doing self work, it gets me into that space where I can ask the bigger questions and do healings. And you can heal from this higher place, instead of just working on the physical plane.
Mm-hmm.
You're partially in the physical plane, but you're also working on the spirit body in the consciousness plane, which is really powerful and amazing. It's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely. You are speaking my language. As let's see, Mary MK wants to know what kind of drumming meditation do you use? What do you suggest?
I actually use the Michael Harner. I can't remember the number of it. He has a number of drums. I use it's a single drum, 30 minutes or 15 minutes. And it's just a straight, it sounds, whenever I teach the classes for the foundation, it sounds like this horrible monotonous drum beat. It's not pretty and beautiful. It's very fast and steady and monotonous, but it gets you there. And so I know that you can purchase the track from the foundation. And I do know also that there is, I think there is mimics of his drum beat on free on social media, on YouTube, places like that, where you can find it. But there is a certain type of beat you really want to have, because that's what, especially if you're new to it, because you want to achieve that state. And again, I know I'm just clapping, but it really, the drum beat is dun 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 dun. That's how fast it goes. And so if you are searching for something outside of the foundation's drum track, make sure that it has that monotonous, fast tone, and not like a slow, pretty tone, because it's not as easy to slip into the theta state as it is with the beat that Michael really perfected and worked on, and works for all of our workshops and classes for new people to slip into that theta state of consciousness.
That's amazing. Yeah. Being Native American, I'm big into the drums. I've got them hanging on my walls all over the place.
Yeah,
here.
you can see.
I can see your drums. Yes, I can. So yeah, it is pretty amazing. And when I've run drum circles, that fast beat.
Oh yeah.
Boom, right there. Everyone in the circle is just like,
yes.
Yep. Raising that vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Courtney says, she's like, don't get me on the drums. Also, she loves your hair. Just wanted you to know that. Let's see. She says, raise that vibration. That's the music I listen to when I need to clear my mind. Northern Cree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a lot of my own drumming and chanting when I need to get into that state. And sometimes it's just drumming. Mm-hmm. I don't even need the chanting a lot of times. So it's the drum meditations. People look at me like I'm crazy, but wow, are they powerful?
Yes.
So powerful.
And when you're in a group and everyone is doing it, and everyone's, depending on how you start your circle,
right?
I used to do mine where we would start with what we call the one heartbeat, dun,
Mm-hmm.
dun, dun, dun. And then I'd say in a few minutes, I'm going to pick up the pace, and then we'd start that faster pace. And as soon as you start the faster pace, you can feel the entire energy in the room shift, because you've got, let's say 10 to 20 people all doing this at the same time, the same sounds, or people doing a rattle at the same time. I think it works on us just on that, like that ancient ancestor level that we all carry in our DNA. And so we're all familiar with it, because all of us, no matter where you've come from, you had ancestors. I guarantee you, to all my students, I guarantee you had ancestors that were using drums to move into ecstatic trance, or to just move into that consciousness state where they could do medicine women, holy men and women, whatever you'd like to call that. Right. All cultures had that. Everybody had, our ancestors were brilliant and discovered how to work with, again, I hate to say my own belief system, but I'll say helping spirits or God or goddesses, however you want to see that, higher wisdom, they tapped into that. And I think that a lot of people are moving back into the discovery of this type of work, because it's needed now in our times. And like you had said earlier, Christina, about, where do we go for this like soul level work? And I think they knew it. And that is really, I'm working on my second book right now, and it's about ancestral wisdom. And our ancestors, my gosh, are, everybody listening, they are so smart. We think we're so smart because we're educated or we're in this modern society, but they just knew things. They were connected to spirit in ways that we can only hope to achieve because we've fallen away from a lot of it. And so I talk about and write a lot about reconnecting with ancestral practices and wisdom, even outside of what you might consider your own. Like, I'm mainly Celtic, almost all Celtic. I do feel it's cultural appreciation. If you find something that resonates with you, I also have Buddhist tendencies. There's a little bit of all of that in there. And I have created my own practice that works with me, resonates with me. And that's what I write about for people, is to bring that ancestral wisdom forward. And it just is amazing what they knew and how they could slip into this state of mind and trust the process of whatever was happening. And they went through some of the most difficult times. Talk about illnesses and war and some of the most difficult things, but maintained their level of confidence and structure in their own lives because they were so connected to a higher power. And so I really have a big, big focus on ancestral wisdom because, again, just amazing, amazing talent, and thousands of years old. When you start looking at Hindu, we start really looking at some of this, you just see how long it's been going on. And as in shamanism, you hear a lot of the shamans in some of the cultural indigenous shamans. They are the last of their kind because as the community produces younger offspring, they don't really want to do a lot of that sort of thing. They leave to go to big cities. They leave for jobs. They leave for that sort of life. And so as we're starting to lose some of that culture, and not just shamanically, just spiritually in general, it is my opinion that is part of our problem, is that we need to rehook back into our ancestors, what they knew, what they believed, why they believed it, and their experiences and their stories. And it's life-changing. It's been life-changing for me just to do all the research on learning about them and about these different cultures and religions.
Right. I'm going to say something. One of our listeners said something here. I agree with you. And then I want to add in that as we're going through this shift, we are moving away from the idea that suffering is something that you have to do, and moving more into joy.
Yes.
And what I have learned through my own systems as well, or not my systems that I developed, but my ancestral systems, is that a lot of it is based in give and take. Like, there's not enough for everybody. There's like a lack consciousness there, and a suffering consciousness.
Yes.
And I feel like what this whole ascension time is trying to teach us is that we can take the wisdom of the ancestors and infuse it with joy.
Yes. Yes.
And I really feel like that's where we're heading.
Yes.
And I have known several people because I grew up in northern Wisconsin near a reservation, and it's interesting how like so many people left to go to the big cities, to get the education, to get the jobs, to be able to do all that. And now they're all coming back home. And they're coming back home in their 40s and 50s and 60s and teaching the younger generation in this new mixed paradigm of ancestral wisdom and joy.
Yes.
And I love that. I've got goosebumps as I'm speaking here. I love that. I love that people are willing to release the suffering and embrace the joy, because, we've been saying for a long time, this world is broken. There's so much that needs to change, without considering how you get through that change.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because buildings have to fall down to build a new one, right?
Right.
Well, the broken systems have to fall down to build new systems. And I feel like that's where we are still partially in the breaking down and partially in the building.
I agree.
So we're about halfway through in my
key,
estimation.
Like you say, though, is as everything is breaking down, what is the key? What do we hold on to? What do we grasp at? We grasp at our higher consciousness. We grasp at the wisdom of the ancestors, who also went through periods of breakdowns and destruction of societies and rebuilding of societies. They went through all of their own pain and suffering.
Mhm.
And I agree with you too about the suffering. Suffering is inevitable. I mean, we all have it. We just do. But it's how we handle the suffering. What do we learn from it? How, again, we can move into that consciousness state and say, I'm suffering with a specific issue, and it could be a loss of any kind. I talk a lot about there's like the big losses, and
Mhm.
there's little losses that add up to big losses. So for example, I'm 54. So I just put that out for the whole world to know. I'm 54. I'm experiencing loss of vision. I'm experiencing a little bit of empty nest. I lost one son. One son moved out, right? I'm experiencing like there's a career shift. So there's this constant shifting but I find joy in every day, even with the
Right.
complexities of what's going around me. And I could probably list 15 things that are not going so great right now, but the focus has to be what is going great. We can't
Mhm.
change. I can't change that my vision is changing. I can't change that I'm aging. But what I can do is change my focus, my manifestation
Right.
of aging. I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this in a pretty way. I want to age beautifully,
Mhm.
meaning that now that I'm getting older, as the wrinkles are showing up, the wisdom is like squeezing out. So
Mhm.
as it's almost like I've changed youth for wisdom. And I don't even think it's my wisdom necessarily. It's not that I'm
Right.
this brilliant person. It's that being in the consciousness state often brings in a higher level of wisdom that I think just naturally opens our minds to think wisdom filled in our day without have to constantly be in a consciousness state or a theta state. You start to grow into this uh, more peaceful. I keep saying the word wisdom. It just keeps coming to me, wisdom, just this more wisdom filled existence. So you can be at the grocery store and someone could do something that normally in your younger years you would have been, all crazy about. And you can look at it and you can say, I don't know why this person is behaving this way, but I do know that we are all suffering. And what is she bringing forward right now? And I'm not going to add to that suffering. I'm not
Right.
going to be rude. I'm not going to be unkind. I will be the one to like stop that, break that chain for her today so that she can just carry a little bit lighter load. You want to be that person. And I think as we age, that kind of wisdom squeezes out from us. And I think it's genetic. I think it's ancestral DNA. And I think that as women and men age, we just start to move into a level of a different type of beauty.
Right. I agree with you. At 55, I have learned a very important thing. I hope everyone hears this. Wrinkles are not painful. They don't hurt.
They don't
Okay. They do not hurt.
know.
It's okay. If I have the crow
Yep.
lines because
Yeah.
I'm
You're smiling.
smiling a lot,
Yep.
yay. That means I
Exactly.
smiled a lot. That's
Exactly.
awesome. So I wanted to go up and read what Peg had actually said because she made a very good point here. She said, our ancestors were so much connected to spirit and nature. We as a population seek more material connections like social media, which is great in this day and age, but so very different from what our ancestors recognized
Yes.
as a practice.
Yes.
And I feel like what came to me as I was reading that is, first of all, I 100% agree, 100% agree. The other thing is that we are not only more active on social media where we're reaching more people in more places. I mean, I think probably every country that has internet access is represented on social media, and a lot of different ones in my own social media where I
Mhm.
have contact with people all over the world. I would not have had that, and that then the understanding of different cultures if we didn't have social media, and that's what makes it great. People complain about it. I'm like, clean up your feed. you know, it's within your control to follow what you want to follow, right? So I see a lot of value in that, but what we're missing then is more face-to-face communication.
Mhm.
And that's also within families because families used to all stay in the same area.
Mhm.
And in many cases, multi-generations living in one home. And we don't do that anymore. So there's where that disconnection can sometimes happen. And in some families, it's probably a blessing that we're not all living in one place because, not all families are fabulous.
Right.
So But that's okay. Hi, Lee. Welcome. I saw her pop in here. So I love what Peg had to say, and to see that there is value in both.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there
And if
is
you can
value.
balance both, that's where it
Yes.
becomes amazing. And
Yes.
I think too many of us, we don't spend enough time in nature. And
Mhm.
again, you know, you have to be so careful putting your spiritual woo out there, because
Mhm.
I don't mean to offend anybody, but I believe that everything has spirit. That is a core shamanic belief, is that we believe everything has spirit.
Yeah.
So have you ever gone into the woods alone, or into your yard if you're fortunate to have a number of trees, and you're not feeling well and you're feeling low for whatever reason, and you sit in the center of those, and there is this peace and this energy that comes over you that is unlike anything that you could get from social media. And and the interesting thing too is, if you can do this, try this. I beg you to try it. If you can move yourself into that consciousness state, if you've done that type of work, and you can, the most interesting thing to do is sit in that space and lift your consciousness and see what the trees see in you. So as you're sitting there,
Oh, I love that.
you can see what they see in you. So if everything has spirit and there's nature spirits, what are the trees seeing in you? And you can see from their perspective some beautiful and amazing things about yourself. And if you see colors, you can see like the color of your sadness, and then you can see the trees moving it away. I don't know how they do it, but there's this amazing, same with water, this amazing thing that happens. It sort of pulls away the fog that we can sit in. And then
Mhm.
if you're brave and you've never done this before, you can ask the trees for wisdom and talk about ancestral wisdom. They
Oh,
are
yeah.
brilliant. And you can ask, I'm in this pain, I'm in this situation, and just sit there, and you feel, but by the time you're done, you're ready to go back to it and realize that you can pretty much conquer anything again. You're back in that feeling. So yeah, I just wanted to share that little
Yeah.
piece.
Thank you. We are going to have to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to start with Craig Sampo, who's an amazing young man, who I'm very blessed to know, has some really good stuff to say here. And so we'll come back and talk about what he had put into the chat and continue our conversation. This is a really great conversation.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And we will be back in a minute or two.
Only 5% of our patterns of behavior are driven by our conscious mind. 95% of our patterns of behavior are driven by what we hold in our unconscious mind. Root cause therapy is a holistic healing modality using advanced testing methods to help you identify and shift the patterns and beliefs holding you back from achieving goals, changing unhelpful patterns, or stepping into the relationships you truly deserve. Using no drugs, no chemicals, root cause therapy will help make your unconscious thoughts and beliefs conscious in order to achieve lasting change in a focused amount of time. Deidre Sanford is a certified root cause therapy practitioner, energy worker, and psychic medium who knows her clients truly deserve to heal their deepest wounds in a safe container. By combining her skills in your root cause therapy program, Deidre will work with you to bring what's hidden deep in your mind to the forefront and to create lasting change. Root cause therapy is proven helpful in overcoming anxiety, emotional eating or spending habits, low self-esteem, and many other unhelpful patterns based in your past experiences and incomplete emotional cycles. Contact Deidre today to learn how root cause therapy may assist you in letting go of that which is holding you back from achieving the life and relationships you truly deserve. Contact Deidre by calling 630-506-8381. That's 630-506-8381, or schedule your consultation at DeidreLSanford.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Self-Care Show. I am your guest host, Christina Bloom, and I am here with Amara Honeck, and we are talking about, oh my God, everything. We are talking about everything, and you are listening to us on WLTKDB.com. We have been talking about, drumming, binaural beats, raising consciousness, just so much stuff. And we were talking about aging as well. And Craig had some really good insights into aging. And what he says is, I believe we tend to look a certain way at certain ages because, one, we remember how old we are, and two, society says we should look a certain way at a certain age. Social programming. I do agree, though, that it doesn't need to be painful. No, wrinkles don't hurt. I'm just going to say that again. Plus, you both look fantastic. I would have never guessed that as your age. So thank you, Craig. As two ladies in our 50s, we appreciate that.
Much appreciate that.
So yes. Let's see. Courtney says, I love that you brought that up. We did all used to completely live in one huge home, like the ancient Aztecs. And yeah, we certainly did. I'm not sure. Facebook user says Warren, so I must have missed something up here somewhere. Oh, wrinkles and silver hair are badges to be worn proudly. Yeah, that's what she meant, or he meant. I'm not sure. I think it sounds like something a woman would say, though. Lee Warner, who I want to just throw this out there. If you don't know Lee Warner, she is one of the most magnificent human beings I've ever met. She is just all heart, and I am so grateful. And she said, hit 55 and not slowing down anytime soon. Amen for us 1967ers. Yes, girl. All right, Casey. Vicky is sending love and healing vibes. Thank you, Casey. Thank you very much. So I wanted to start with that, and it really is about social conditioning. And it's not just age, it's consciousness. It's the way we live our lives. It's our expectations and how we were raised because of all of the social expectations that we're raised with. And Deidre says, you ladies absolutely rock. Thank you so much. Deidre, you're the best. Thank you. Because you just introduced me to an amazing human being, and I'm really grateful for that. Thank you. So yeah, I made Lee cry. Sorry, Lee. Didn't mean to make you cry. All right. So let's talk about the social expectations and the expectations that, there's only like one way to live life, right? That's not even true. Every person on the planet can go in whatever direction they choose. Now, like Abraham Hicks says, you're so free you can choose bondage, right? So
yes.
I love that.
And many do.
Yes.
Right. And I think they don't really want to, but they do. And yeah, I agree. And gosh, you just hate to sound like I hate to sound like a broken record, but I really feel, again, with the consciousness work, there's just so much freedom, and like freedom from bondage and freedom from a lot of the social concerns, because again, when we can see ourselves from a higher place, we can see how God must see us. And when I think we're our own worst critic. We're always the hardest on ourselves. And when you can see what the higher realms, what the higher wisdom sees, it is quite beautiful, everybody. And it can really take, we were talking about aging, and it can take whatever loss you're experiencing, whatever disappointment you have, and it can reframe it for you. We can perceive that reframing of our perception. And that is actually one of the manifestation tips I do talk about all the time is perception, because our perceptions are created from birth. So we have our familial peers, we have educational, based on your education level or the type of education you went into. We have jobs, coworkers, friends, health. Everything develops our perception. And so it's hard to see ourselves outside of our own negative perceptions, because again, we are our own worst critics. So when we can rise up and see from a perception that has no none of that baggage that we carry, none of that human baggage of what your mom said to you when you were little, or your first husband said or did, or this situation that happened at work. When we can see outside of that limit from a higher perspective, we can see that our
Yes.
lives are really beautiful. No matter how much you have or don't have physically and manifesting, you still have a beautiful life. Even if there is suffering in the life, you still have the beauty. And you can move into that consciousness state on your most difficult days and say, I'm not seeing the blessings. Please show me. And you will be
Yes.
given a lineup of everything. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing the things that you can experience in that consciousness state. So you can see why I'm influenced by it. All my writing is influenced by it. All my blogging is influenced by it. Most of the work I do is in that consciousness state.
Right.
I'm always like lifting up and trying to get a more wisdom-filled perspective, and not the Amara perspective, but something higher than me that does not hold all of my hangups or perceptions, erroneous perceptions.
Right. Yeah. Erroneous being the key
Yeah.
word, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's really interesting to me to see how, as we're moving through this process of ascension, and, I mean, the earth is changing too. We're having more earthquakes, more snow than I've seen in decades. It's kind of crazy how much snow we're getting. And even in Southern California, getting
No,
snow.
I know,
And
I saw that.
yeah, and it's really interesting to watch how the weather patterns are changing, because when we raise our vibration, this is probably going to sound a little bit strange to some people, but we're actually like raising our vibration up to kind of the rest of the animals on the planet, because they're not bogged down with mortgages and phone bills and social media and, cleaning
Exactly.
house and whatever,
Yeah.
right? So they just exist. And that's kind of where we're going, is to be where we can just be happy existing, right? So we're raising our consciousness level to the other species on the planet. And as we're doing that, of course, and the earth is responding to the raised levels, and we're having all of these weather events, and we're having, what was it? I think it was like 2 weeks ago, there was an earthquake outside of Montreal. It wasn't a big one, but it was an earthquake. It
Yeah.
registered. So, there's all of this stuff going on as we're raising our consciousness. Now we can go into fear about that and go, oh, Armageddon, whatever. Give me a break. We're just raising consciousness.
Mhm.
And so as we're doing that, we're moving into that. There are so many different ways that people can do that, and not one way resonates with everyone, obviously. But I love your perspective. I love the way that you are so focused on staying in that as much as possible,
Yeah.
staying
Yeah.
in that consciousness state. And I know in the last 8-9 days, the higher consciousness state that everyone has been surrounding me with
Mhm.
has kept me in this beautiful
Yeah.
state of grace.
Yes. I love that. Yes.
That is the only way that I can say it, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's
State
beautiful.
of grace.
Beautiful way to say it. Yeah.
And the thing is, we can all exist in that state of grace if we choose to.
Mhm. Right. It's a choice.
Yes.
It's a choice. It's not. We're not necessarily just given our burdens and say good luck with that. It's a choice of how we live with whatever burdens or suffering or difficulties we have.
Right.
That's really what it is, and there is a way around it. There really, again, broken
Mhm.
record, consciousness work. That
Yes.
really is. I have found for me that is the way I was able to move beyond my own difficulties in life and the things that have happened to me. We all have stories, especially when you're in your 50s. You've got your
Yeah.
stories,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and you can look back at the history and see how you handled something and how you would handle it now versus then. And again, it's that, like I said, that ancestral wisdom leaking through, and I think consciousness work that puts your mind in a naturally more calm, more solution focused state, even without being, you don't have to be in a theta state to experience it. You just have
Right.
to be able to silence yourself for a minute and sit in stillness, close your eyes, put your hand, on your heart chakra and just be there. Just be in that space without having to, and really with consciousness work too, even with shamanic drumming, with binaural beats, once you've experienced it and you've really kind of gotten the work done, and you've done a lot of it, You don't need it anymore. You can naturally move into that state. I could move into that state sitting right here in front of you all right now. I've been doing it for years, so it just comes natural to me. I close my eyes and I kind of shift. I feel a shift in my consciousness, and I can be there, be in that higher world. That's when I work with my clients. That's where I'm at. I'm in that higher world. So you're not getting Amara's opinions about your situation. You're getting what I would think is a higher collective wisdom, not just my perceptions based, again, we're going back to based on my own life experiences, my own perceptions. We're getting something higher than just me, because that, you trust me, you want something more than just what my opinions are. So,
I agree. I mean, for myself, I agree,
yes.
because I do the same thing.
Yeah. And so if you can shift up, you can be a better friend, you can be a better partner, you can be a better parent, you can be a better person, you can be a better coworker. Just always when a situation arises, if you can just for a second just pause and think about, why is this person acting like this toward me? Why is this happening? Why does this day seem to be so off? And you can just pause and just kind of connect and just wait and listen in that stillness. And the answers come in the stillness if you can get yourself into that spot through practice.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. And that state of stillness. Oh, I love it. There's so much power in it.
Yes.
There's so much power in it. Deb, I almost said Deb. Sorry, Peg. Peg wants to share this. She took a Celtic or Celtic. I'm not, how do people even pronounce it? I always pronounce it like a hard C. Celtic. Yeah. A Celtic spirituality workshop in 2014, and wrote a poem to myself at the end of it. One of the lines I wrote, which definitely came from a deep soul-centered space, was, "May I find my true self that has never been lost." Some days are easier to find that true self. Some days not so much. More work ahead. Wait till you hit 65, ladies. Whew. Eyes wide open, baby.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that is beautiful. May I find my true self that has never been lost. Wow, that needs to be on a coffee cup.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Like a t-shirt or something. That is good. And do you see, like, you can just, as you read that, and I'm reading it as you're reading it, I had chills. So when I get those physical sensations, to me, I feel clearly that whatever Peg was connected to was ancestral, deep spirit. It was a note from the universe to you, and it's beautiful and meant for something for you to be able to sit in and resonate with, and it just is beautiful. It's not just a normal human thought to think that. It's something that it's a gift and a blessing that you were given by something higher. And I just love when that sort of thing happens.
Oh, so do I. I absolutely love that. I love Courtney. Courtney talks a lot, and I love, because she always, like, whatever pops into her mind, she puts into chat, and I love that. Celtic with an accent. Oh, that's pretty amazing. Spirit bumps. Yeah, I've heard people call them God bumps. I've heard them called, whatever, but I love that too. No, don't apologize. I think it's wonderful. I pointed out because I think it's wonderful. That's amazing. So the manifestation of really bringing ourselves into a higher spiritual state, I love that concept. And I feel like that needs, how do I say this? That needs to be something that's more focused, because that's where we're going. Yeah. I have a belief that no matter what, my material needs are always met. They're always met. And I don't have to worry about it, because I just know that I'm going to be taken care of. And I think that people who can live in that state of spirituality, connected to their inner selves and their higher selves, can just go through life knowing that they're taken care of and there's never a problem.
Right. Exactly.
Peg says that she's happy to share the entire poem, but she can't get through it without tears. So, Peg, if you'd like to do that, that's great. And then I'm not sure how all of that works, but I don't know how long it is. So I just lost my train of thought because I got distracted. Where do you teach? That's what I meant to ask you. Like, where do you do the meditations? Is it online? Is it just at a
Yeah,
location?
before COVID hit, I was teaching in person, and I have a teaching studio. I'm sitting in it right now. But then when it kept going on for so long, like year after year, the foundation created a bunch of online workshops that were very similar to the in-person. So we started teaching online, and then the Monroe Institute had to close the Virginia campus, and then I couldn't teach on weekends. So I'm a weekend warrior for them. I teach in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And so everything has switched to online. So that's what we do now is we go online. And then once a month, usually it's always on a Thursday. Once a month, if you go to my website, you would see the consciousness gathering. It pops up and you can read about it. And it's for newbies, and it's also for old bees who have been doing this for quite some time. So I'll have people who have taken Monroe workshops who just want to be with like-minded people, because sometimes when you start talking about some of the things that happen in the consciousness state, people they can get weird, but they're not weird when you're with other people who are thinking like you and are at that same level. So, and that's really what it is a community gathering spot to be able, and I do 2 guided experiences and one what we call free flow experience. And then we talk about it afterwards. If you feel like it, you can ask questions about, I experienced this. What do you think this means? And I'll help you with questions to go into your next journey. So, because I don't want to answer the questions for you, but I'll say, why don't you go in next time and ask this? Because I want you to make the discovery, not me tell you from my perception what's happening. Because I just disagree with that. I think you have your own perceptions and your own spiritual guidance coming in, and you don't need me to interpret that for you. So you can join me monthly for that, and it's free. So it's a really nice. I have one coming up on March 16th. There's one coming up. So
great.
Just in that, you can do it.
I'm just sharing this, give you a chance to say, Sherry says, I try to be positive all the time and kind to others. However, I live with a person who is so negative. Any advice?
My advice would be, as long as you're not too confrontational ever about it, take the negative and immediately show them the positive. So here's what happened, but say, what the blessing is in that is that you got to experience, boom, or you got to talk about, boom. And you just sort of do that, and you'd be amazed at pretty soon the person who's negative, you'll start to see that they'll even, before you've spoken, they're going to kind of go, well, what is Sherry going to say to me now? And they'll start thinking that way on their own. And then you'll start to see a little bit of a change. But if you can point out the blessing without being annoying, if you're constantly having horrible things happen and someone's like, well, the blessing in getting in that giant car accident is you broke both legs, so now you get more rest. It doesn't sound great, but you can frame it in a way that would say, well, maybe it is a great time to slow down. You finally get to read that book you wanted to do, or slow down, or do this work, or do consciousness work, or whatever. And so that can be really helpful if you can reframe it for the person, because it's their perception. It's the way their life has turned that created those negative perceptions in them to begin with. I hope that makes sense.
I love that. Thank you. You brought up something that triggered what I was going to say earlier that I didn't remember. I've been hearing so many teachers and healers talking about doing shadow work. Mm-hmm. Are you saying the same thing with consciousness work, or is that different in your mind?
You absolutely can do shadow work within the consciousness structure. Mm-hmm. And I think some people go into shadow work and it can be kind of rip you apart. And that's not always good, depending on your state of mind and what's going on in your life. But what you can do in the consciousness state is you can say, I have this situation that keeps happening. I know that it's got to be something within me that is creating this, but I can't see it because I'm too close to it. So can you show me that piece of my shadow side? It'll show, you will see, or you will perceive that shadow experience. And again, this doesn't always happen like right away, you guys. You have to work at this to get to that point. But you will start to see what that is. And then the next step is, it's not just observing it. It's, how do I correct this? Because I don't want to have this shadow piece anymore. Now we have to have light and dark, but depending on where your shadow's at, how dark on this, on the spectrum of and what you want to change, what is your perception of what you want to change. You can then ask for guidance to smooth the edges of the shadow. I don't think we should get rid of all of our shadow, because I think part of it is what helps keep us standing. And I think it keeps us standing in our power a little bit, so we're not abused or taken advantage of in ways that maybe perhaps our past created that shadow. So we need it as structure, but we can smooth out the edges a little bit so that we are not engaging the shadow without purpose. So we only engage the shadow when we need to be in defense of ourselves, or something like that. But if it's prohibiting the joy or the cultivation of joy in your life, then all we need to ask for is, what is it? What caused it? And here's how I'm going to smooth it out. Most of the time, the smooth out happens just in knowing the cause of why we have the shadow, why it's there.
Right. Yeah, I know it's really interesting as I listen to different people talk, and I talk to a lot of people. So it is interesting, different people's takes, like on the shadow, on the ego, on all of that. I have never been a proponent of getting rid of ego, because that's our personality. That is part of our human suit, right? The problem is when we let ego completely take control, and we're not getting to the other parts of us. We're not getting to the spiritual parts of us, because the human suit becomes reality in some respect. And if we can just not let the human suit be our full reality, but we need it to live in a physical world. That's why we took physical form.
Yep.
Right. And without some of the shadow work, without our experiences, without our egos, we wouldn't be able to differentiate one of us from another.
Exactly. And don't you think too, that when we can better incorporate our shadow self, we become more of us, because you're not hiding little pieces. And I'm not talking about the shadow self that causes us to do really destructive things that, you don't want to be. But with the ego, we are merging more of the shadow in. So we are becoming more of who we're supposed to be in this life. And we're here for a reason. We came in to my guidance always says, when I have said to them, what are we here for? What are we doing? What are we here for? They always go, child, it's as simple as this. You're here to experience. Yes. And when I heard that, everything in me settled down, because that means all of your experiences are important, even the smallest. Everything is validated, and everything is a piece of creating this beautiful you, who is a soul piece of the bigger. And we're kind of reporting back to that soul piece, these experiences, and we're enveloping all of who we are, dark and light. And that is where we become, I think, truly beautiful and authentic. We want to live authentically, and we become more authentic individuals when we can see our own shortcomings, understand why they're there, and just merge them all together, instead of living in separate segments of our lives based on who we're with or based on what we're doing,
Absolutely. I mean, and let's be real about it. We live in a physical world, right? So if we're going to go to work, we're not going to be the same with people at work as we are with our family, or with our friends, or with our loved one. And that's not being fake.
Yeah, right.
That's just being an employee.
Right.
And that is something that a lot of people don't seem to understand. Like, oh, I go to work, I can't be 100% myself. Nobody's 100% their self at work unless you're doing what we do.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
First of all, welcome, Kathy. She says, some confuse ego with truth and truth with ego, depending on where they are in their journey or experience. Absolutely. And Courtney said, yes, when you turn it into a lesson, it's like a great feeling, but it's so hard to see in the moment. You just have to trust the process. And I feel like trust the process is really kind of the theme of the show today.
It really is. I think it is. Yeah, it is. Definitely.
Yeah. And was there anything in here that you wanted to respond to that I might have missed?
No, they've been going by, and I
know.
See.
There's some, first of all, thank you all for being so active in the chat room, because you bring up some stuff that we probably didn't think about.
Yeah. And I like what Courtney wrote, put light in the dark. Eventually they have no choice but to come to the light.
Right. I love that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Right. Because the dark cannot exist in the presence of light.
Mm-hmm. Right. I love that.
I love that too. And I forgot to ask, silly me, is this a 1 or 2 hour show? I didn't even think about that. Because
I think it's only one. I think we went.
I thought so.
Oh, we're going over our time. I think almost.
We're going over our time.
We're almost, like we're right on the edge.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I would like to end the show by reading Peg's poem.
All right. That's
because she posted it in the chat. So Peg, this is a poem from Peg Deinhart. And she says, may I always seek the truth and find the light. May I be at peace with my knowledge and not be at strife. May I find my true self that has never been lost. May I take the path of enlightenment, knowing there's no cost. May I stretch no more for meaning, as the words are always there. May I reveal my inmost spirit to those who stand and stare. May I grow through prayer and song, though a word may not be spoken. May I embrace life forever as a spirit untamed and unbroken.
Oh my gosh.
I have chills.
Oh, Peg, that is profound.
Incredibly.
Ancestral. It's ancestral, Peg. Listen to that wisdom, that guidance coming in. That is award-winning. I'm not kidding. If I would have read that somewhere, I would have. That is an award-winning poem. That is really, really beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I've got chills, and I could feel my heart chakra just go boom. Just beautiful.
Me too. That is amazing. That is a beautiful poem, Peg. And thank you so much for sharing that with me. And next time I run into you at Meijer or Target or Pick and Save, I'm going to give you a big old hug.
And for me too. Christina,
I will give you one from Amara too. So prepared for a big old bear hug. And our producer, Mike, has put your information into the chat. So we'll give people a little minute to go through that and get your information. And Courtney says, whoop, whoop, encore, encore. Wow, we are here to experience. We certainly are. Oh, thank you so, so much, Peg. We are going to have to sign off here because this is a 1 hour show, and I hope that you've gotten all of that information. If you haven't, you can contact myself or Deidre, because we both have Amara's information if you'd like to have that. And Mara, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you.
Blessings to you and the work that you do. And it is absolutely amazing. So if you are anywhere near Gatlinburg, Tennessee, look her up. She's awesome. Thank you. Everyone have a beautiful, blessed day.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.